Hello. The Gododdin, or the Book of Aneirin, an elegiac poem telling of events in the late 6th century, affords a fascinating insight into the early medieval period and contains, if only in an aside, a reference to an Arthur. Written in archaic Old Welsh and Middle Welsh, it survives in a 13th century manuscript now in the National Library of Wales that appears to have been copied from two earlier versions, one older than the other, and by two scribes, almost certainly monks. Difficult to date with any precision, it may well have been originally composed not long after the events it celebrates at the end of the 6th century. If so, it's the first time Arthur appears by name in any known source. The original poem is attributed to Aneirin, a bard at the court of Gwynfawr, ruler of a people known as the Gododdin, who occupied territory stretching across what is now Northumberland and southeast Scotland, an area known as Hen Ogledd, the Old North, whose capital was most probably Edinburgh, overlooked by the ancient volcanic peak known as Arthur's Seat. Aneirin is referenced in several early Welsh sources. In the Gododdin, he tells the story of a band of elite warriors, in one of the surviving versions numbering 300 and in the other 363, a reflection of the Celtic fascination with threes. Drawn from across the Brythonic kingdoms, the men gather in the land of the Gododdin in the late 590s. Here they are entertained at the court of Gwynfawr, where gold talks are presented and a year is spent feasting and drinking before they march out to face an Anglo-Saxon army, maybe 10,000 strong, led by Ethelfrith, ruler of Bernicia and Deira, described by Bede in his Ecclesiastical History of the English People, completed in 731, as a very brave king, most eager for glory, who ravaged the Britons more extensively than any other English ruler. It is to be a last stand against overwhelming odds, a final heroic mission in an attempt to stem the northward spread of Anglo-Saxon occupation. A year spent feasting and drinking is not to be taken literally as 365 days, rather as poetic license for a lengthy period. The tradition of repaying hospitality by military duty was well established. Aneirin tells us, "They drank mead, gold and sweet ensnaring. For a year the minstrels were merry." The provision of mead symbolising a contract, wining and dining for which the price in return is loyalty unto death. According to Aneirin, their high spirits lessened their lifespan. Men went to Catraeth with a war cry, speedy steeds and dark armour and shields, spear shafts held high and spear points sharp-edged, and glittering coats of mail and swords. The battle took place over several days at Catraeth in Yorkshire, at the end of which all but 3 of the warrior band are dead. The battle marks the beginning of the end of Celtic resistance in what will become culturally Anglo-Saxon Northumbria. It was the job of a bard to preserve the oral history and traditions of the tribe. Aneirin's poem is clearly intended as a commemorative performance piece. This is the Gododdin, Aneirin sang it. Part record of events and part celebratory elegy. Many individuals are named, their lives and character described, and their deeds praised in vivid terms, evidence both of authenticity and that Aneirin knew these people well. Only one of those named can reasonably be linked to a real historical character. Aneirin tells us in the 2nd stanza of a beloved friend called Owain, "In might a man, a youth in years, of boisterous valour. It is wrong that he is beneath a cairn." Owain is recorded with slight name variations in several early sources as belonging to the kingdom of Reged, another of the Brythonic territories of the Old North, occupying an area around the Solway Firth, broadly what is now North Lancashire, Cumbria and Galloway. Owain appears in later Arthurian courtly romances clearly fictionalised, but that the inspiration came from life is interesting and raises the question, did other Arthurian figures have real historical models? The sidelong reference to an Arthur comes towards the end of the poem. Aneirin says of one warrior, "Though he was no Arthur, Gwartha was a palisade." Simply, though he was no Arthur, no further explanation. Clearly Aneirin expects his audience to be familiar with and to understand the reference. Next time, another event recorded in a poem that affords further insight into the spread of Anglo-Saxon influence across Britain in the early medieval period, and a further mention of an Arthur in a poem telling of 7th century events. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can subscribe by clicking on the rose window over my shoulder.